Hi everybody and welcome to TNT. Well, we're at the start of our first leg flying to Almaty in Kazakhstan today. I've never been there before. Obviously there's a bit of noise here in the background. I'm at a very, very busy airport and the airport is rammed this morning, 7 a.m. and really I've never seen it so busy. And we're sort of in the middle of the wet season, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. Now, tricks for young players. I came through immigration this morning, obviously, and I had to get a re-entry permit. No problem. So I went to the counter, 1,500 baht. Now it only takes 3 or 4 minutes to get the re-entry permit. It is cheaper if you get it at the immigration office before you head out of the country. Now, I wasn't doing much travelling when I renewed my visa, so I didn't get a multiple entry permit with the visa, so I have to get the re-entry visa as I go in and out of the country. Only 1,000 baht at the immigration office, I understand. The other mistake I made was with exchange. I brought with me my Thai baht, and I thought so many Kazakh people coming to Thailand these days, no doubt they'll have some Kazakh currency, but no. So I'm a bit worried when I get to Almaty in Kazakhstan that they mightn't be able to change my Thai baht. So I've exchanged some of my Thai baht for US dollars, hoping that will cover over most of the problems. But we're doing the program today in sort of a snippet style. Some of the stories I caught up with late last night before I went to bed, and we'll get to those in a moment. But the big one by far is the start of the trial of Richard Burrow. Nothing to do with Richard Burrow here in Thailand, a well-respected blogger. But Richard Burrow was known in Phuket as Peter Smith. For some 30 years, flying under the radar, nobody knew about the horrific crimes he'd committed in the UK. And his trial starts this week. And the police in the UK, I think in Cheshire, have also added some extra charges. So it looks like he may be spending a long time in jail, although of course that court case has to be heard and he has his right to a day in court, despite the horrific charges being brought against him. And of great interest, I think, is how Richard Burrow was able to get away with being Peter Smith in Thailand for so long. He had to get new visas, he had to go in and out of the country, he had a fake passport. So very interesting story there, along with other stuff here on today's TNT. So here we are with our snippet form of reporting. We'll be doing a lot of this over the next week. We won't have quite as many of the ticks and underlines and fancy graphics from the publishers, but we'll certainly be referring to some of the stories, and we'll try and get through as many articles as we can in this snippet format. Now, the first one is this story from Phuket, and this certainly astonished a lot of people when we first heard earlier this year that a person that had been living in plain sight, working amongst us, a person that I knew, a person that worked with a lot of publications, even with some of the schools, was arrested in the UK after going back on his own volition, voluntarily. He went back to England. Basically, he was in poor health, and I think that's what motivated him to go back. But awaiting him were 13 indecent assault charges that went back to 1997 when he didn't appear at a court. Now, exactly how he got out of the UK, how he got to Phuket, is not really understood, and hopefully during the trial we'll get to find out some more information, and we'll be hearing a lot more information from that trial over the next couple of months. But apart from those 13 charges that he'll now be facing, the Cheshire court has now come up with another 20 counts of indecent assault, 1 count of buggery, 3 counts of making indecent images of children, and 4 counts of possession of a false identity document with intent. Indeed, his name is actually Richard Burrows, but everybody in Phuket knew him as Peter Smith. He would have had to, over the some 30 years that he spent here, he had to renew his passport. He had to get work permits and visas. So exactly how he was able to pull this off is I think, the fascinating part of this story. But it looks like he'll be facing more charges when he does get to face court. A story we'll be following as we hear some more. So we did the story the other day on Friday about police and officials walking down streets, in Pattaya's case walking street, and also in Bangkok, assuring the public that everything is safe, everybody's fine, there are no prostitutes, of course. Now, on Saturday night, it was the Prime Minister's turn, taking a walk down Walking Street in Pattaya. And the Nation's reporting that SETA goes to Pattaya's Walking Street. Here's about fewer European visitors. So apparently one of the beefs that came from a lot of the operators is that there are no European visitors, or well, fewer than they had in the past. Now, of course, we've had a rise of Indian tourists, Russian tourists, also from China as they make their return. But it appears from anecdotal evidence from the storekeepers that the number of Europeans has dropped. So, of course, the Prime Minister said, well, I'll instruct the tourism department to pull their finger out and get and attract more European visitors. So whether that's going to happen, we'll just have to see. Of course, it's now summer in Europe, and a time of the year when traditionally we'd be seeing fewer European visitors anyway. So as what happens with the tourism mix in Pattaya especially, after the Prime Minister's visit, we'll just have to see. So a time of changes, in many cases promised changes that don't necessarily eventuate, but now we've learnt in this article, and it's from Thai PBS World, the Interior Minister has been assigned by the Cabinet to amend the Condominium Act to increase the foreign ownership limit in a development from the current, well, we know it's 49%, up to 75%, obviously to try and encourage or allow more units in a condominium to be offered to foreigners, up from 49% to 75%, and to amend the Land Act to allow foreigners to lease land in Thailand for 99 years. Now, the article says that's up from the current 50. I was aware that it was currently 30 years, and then you'd have to get another 30 on top of that. So, well, both big changes if that's actually allowed. So this is all part of this government, a bit desperate to try and attract tourists to top up the coffers, and also now trying to encourage, I suppose, more foreigners to look at land investment or condominium investment to top up the coffers as well. So the two big things from that is the ownership level of condos up from 49 to 75%, and the foreigners allowed to lease land for 99 years, up from the current 50. 99 years, that'd just about see me through. We learnt recently that Thailand's in a race to try and attract a Formula One race for the kingdom. Now, at the moment, they're up against Indonesia and South Korea, who are also vying to try and get the next Asian Grand Prix in their country. Both obviously very strong contenders. But, well, firstly, does Thailand have the money? And secondly, where would they hold it? Well, the Bangkok Post is reporting that Utapao, Pattaya, Bangkok are in a race to host the next F1, and they've got a photo there of, well, obviously Pattaya. It looks like Jomtien Beach. So the Prime Minister, who was, as we learned earlier, in Pattaya over the weekend, he was saying that Jomtien would be the candidate in Pattaya. So, well, around the streets, I suppose. They might even be able to replace some of the sand and do some of it on the sand. Just bag the wheels, that'd be fun. Utapao Airport, obviously they'd use part of the runway for that circuit, or, I don't know, build a separate circuit around the runway area. In Bangkok, they haven't said exactly where they would be holding it in Bangkok. I think they'd probably have to build some sort of separate circuit just out of the city. But they're the three contenders if it's going to be held in Thailand. But I think the first cab off that rank is to try and get Thailand successfully able to host it here in Thailand. And I think that's going to come down to whether they've got the cash. So, really interesting story, I think, there about the potential changes to the foreign use of land here in Thailand, allowing more condos in a unit to be available for foreigners is really going to open up a lot of additional apartments for foreign ownership. And then the extension of land leases, I think, is also a real major change. Now, nothing has happened at the moment. It's got to go through cabinet. It's got to be discussed. I think it'll be a hot topic. A lot of Thais won't really be happy about letting go of the purse strings and the ownership of land here in Thailand, even though there's no ownership in these changes. So, very interesting to follow that one. We will be doing our program every day. I don't exactly know where I'll be each day, but I'm going to make sure I keep up all the latest Thai news for you. So have a fantastic Monday. The next time I'll be speaking to you, I'll be in Almaty in Kazakhstan, and we can learn together more about that fascinating country and ask the question as to why so many Kazakhs, an independent country, are coming to Thailand. What is the attraction for them, and why? So have a fantastic Monday. The next time I'll be speaking to you, I'll be in Almaty in Kazakhstan, and we can learn more about that amazing country together. Hopefully a little bit quieter than it is here. Well, I will have my own apartment. And also be asking the question when I'm there as to why so many Kazakhs are coming to Thailand, and often in the top 5 of arrivals in the country. So should be an interesting week, and I look forward to you joining us each day, but from a very noisy and busy Phuket airport. See you later.